everyone, welcome back to Hands-On Games, and today we're looking at The Lost Cause, the American Civil War, States of Siege game by Victory Point Games. So you'll see we're continuing our series on the States of Siege games. This game design is by Hans von Stockhausen, developed by Alan Emmerich, and map graphics by Tim Allen. This is States of Siege game number 4. It's the 5th States of Siege game we've looked at, the first in this larger polybag format. Previously we've looked at Israeli independence and Soviet dawn and Zulus on the ramparts and empires in America. So if you're interested in any of these games, look back on my channel and you will find overviews of those games as well. This is the Lost Cause, a much deeper, richer, more complicated States of Siege game. So right off the bat, I need to tell everybody who's following through these States of Siege videos that this one turns it up more than just one notch. This one turns it up a couple notches versus the other games that we've looked at. The other games you can get through, sometimes like with Israeli independence, 15 minutes you can get through a game. A long game of Zulus may take you an hour, and all the other games are sort of in between. This game, both the basic and the advanced version, you will not be able to get through it in a half hour. I think you'll be lucky to get through it in an hour. I think you're looking more at 90 minutes to 2 hours. So right away, this is it's a bigger game. There's just a lot more going on in this game. So if you have been interested in States of Siege games, but you're kind of bummed because they seemed maybe too superficial, too shallow, too light for you, then you may want to take a look at this one, among others, because I think this is another game that came out a number of years ago. As we work our way through the States of Siege series, I think we'll see the complexity increase across the board. But for a lot of people, including myself, the relative simplicity of the previous games can be a bonus, and it is for me. So in this video, this is going to be a regular size video. I am not going to spend 2 hours doing a complete playthrough. This is a game that you're going to be referencing the manual a lot. There's a lot of conditional flowcharty type of if and else movement going on when you get to various points of the map. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of possible commands you can do. So you're going to be referencing the rules a lot, and it doesn't lend itself to a walkthrough for someone who's still only played it a few times, such as myself. So what you're looking at is the map. I've got various game pieces out there. I've got the cards ready to be drawn. These dice do not come with the game. They give you the typical Victory Point Games mini dice, so you'll have to provide your own dice unless you really do want to use these. Let's see, you get 2 manuals. I told you it was rules heavy, so you're going to get the basic rules here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of really well-written rules. One thing I want to point out, when you're trying to go through your possible commands, right away, I'm hoping you guys can see that on the camera, but the highlighted text really jumps out at you. So for the Confederate actions, when you're wondering what you can do, I really like how they laid out this manual and made the text that's really important really stand out. So bravo on the rules to Victory Point Games for that. But that's just the basic rules, and then once you master the basic game, you've got advanced rules. So again, more pages of rules. All this stuff in highlighting is that conditional movement rules when you're moving armies, when you're moving the Union armies around the board. I'll talk about that more in a second. And again, this is 6 more pages of advanced rules. So lots of reading if you're into reading rules. This is a States of Siege game that should be right up your alley. Because there is so much to remember, they provide a quick reference card for both the advanced game and the basic game, but both sides are useful actually for the advanced game. And then you have the map. These cups over here do not come with the game. These are holding Confederate leaders, a blind pull, an opaque cup of Confederate leaders, as well as resources for the Confederate Army. So what I haven't mentioned is, what is the goal in the Lost Cause? Well, you play the South, you play the Confederate States, and it's your job just to do better than they did in real life. So yes, it's your job to try to lead lead the South to victory in the Civil War. So for some, that is not a topic that's going to be interesting, totally understood. It's not necessarily high on my list of outcomes I'd like to see either, but it does make for compelling gameplay for sure. It does put you at a huge disadvantage, and it's typical in States of Siege fashion, where you have limited resources, you have way too many things that you want to do, but you can only execute on a couple of those, and you just have to hold out hope that everything else falls into place. So as far as gameplay goes, it's a little bit different than typical States of Siege games. You're not defending a single location in this game. You'll notice there is no central point that you're worried about. The focal point of this game is actually this morale track, because as you play the game, this track will move up and down. It starts at 10, and as it moves down closer to 0 and eventually on 0, you automatically lose the game. So you're trying to avoid that. The other tracks are the Union blockade track, which, as this Union blockade moves up, that's bad for you as the southern states, makes it harder for you to gather resources. So while you're focusing on keeping the morale high, you also want to keep the blockade track low. European recognition, however, you want to try to move that out. Because if you can get up to recognition or military intervention, the higher you get that track, the more support you're going to get from Europe, and the better it is going to be for you, and more likely is you're going to succeed your objectives. Now, what raises and lowers morale? Well, it can just be as simple as this card telling you morale goes up or down when you reveal it. Or, more likely, the Union armies, as they advance along their tracks to various cities, are going to cause morale to drop. Now, what we're looking at here is the advanced map. I'm going to put up on the screen, I took a photograph of the basic map, so you can get an idea when you're learning the game how much more simple the map looks. So take a look at that. And now what you're looking at here are colored tracks representing the armies, the Union armies that will be marching to various cities along those tracks. So for example, up here, I'm coming from Maryland and Pennsylvania, the Army of the Potomac. They will march through Manassas, Fredericksburg, Wilderness, Hanover, and eventually knock on the door at Richmond and Petersburg. When they destroy this fort, they will take control, and you'll notice the 3 Confederate flags. That's bad. Once they have control of that spot, that is 3 morale spots that you go down if you lose Richmond and Petersburg. Now take a look at, let's see, Atlanta, 2 more. If they take Atlanta, you're down 2. If they take Vicksburg, 2 more, etc. So you'll see that morale is affected primarily by losing key points that start the game in your control. So what can you do as the Confederate player to prevent those cities from falling? Well, each turn you're going to draw a card. So the game is card driven, not chit driven. And when you draw these cards, the first thing you're going to have to do, take a look at the card. You'll notice the top has a American flag, the Union Army behind it. So Union armies are going to move first, and then you've got Confederate actions down here. So the Union takes their turn, and you get to follow up with possible actions to push them back. So let's take a look at these cards since I'm holding it up. So this one, the flavor text says, "On to Richmond, General Lyon killed at Wilson's Creek, Missouri." So what do those symbols mean? It's actually pretty well done how they activate Union armies in this game. When you see a circle, that is an unconditional action, and when you see a square, it's a conditional action. Or I think the circle they're referred to as directed, and square is conditional. Either way, it's basically correct. The circle means the Union Army is going to activate. So in this case, with this card, the Union Army would simply, since there's nothing else to do on the spot, it would simply move one spot forward. Same thing if the Green Army was in play, they would do the same thing. That happens to be Army of the Cumberland. They haven't been activated yet. And brown means if that army is activated, they have to pass their activation check. So that gives me an opportunity to talk about the general combat in this game. Let's say, for example, that, here we go, the Army of the Tennessee was activated. And the reason why it's not yet activated, because a card hasn't told us, they've been activated yet. And that will happen soon, early in the game. So let's pretend he's activated. He's here on the Cairo spot. Now, the result was a brown square. That brown square means this army has to pass an activation check. And it's modified by the commander in that theater. In this case, it is Fremont. Now you'll notice Fremont has a modifier of -1 for that black square. So that's the activation modifier while he's in command of this theater. Now what I haven't mentioned is the map is broken up into multiple theaters. So you have the East, West, and Mississippi. That can be a little bit confusing at first. This is not the Western theater over here. This is the Mississippi. The Western's in the middle and Eastern on the right, and you can see it's separated by these dotted lines. So in this case, we have a DRM of -1. You roll a die, and in this case we get a 1. And 1 minus 1, it doesn't matter. 1 is the lowest you can have. 1 is lower than 2, so that means in this case, the Army of the Tennessee would not have activated and they would not move towards Henry and Donelson. Now, had that been a brown circle, we would not have had to roll for that check. So after the Union armies all make their moves, then you get to move on to the Confederate actions. And in this case, over in the East, we get a directed action. +1 DRM, and we can fight a battle and try to push the armies back. We have a command action. We'll have to complete an activation check against our commander over there. And then we have morale checks and Union initiative checks. Now what I didn't mention is that very last box there, the blue with the red box around it, that doesn't mean that blue is activating right now. Instead, it means that the blue army is going to get a initiative marker placed on them, just like so. Now, what did that do up here in the beginning of the turn? Well, actually nothing. But notice down below, we're going to do a Union initiative check. So that sort of tells us, as we're making our actions here, we want to do something about that initiative marker, because if it stays there by the time we get to the end of the turn, they're going to go ahead and get a chance to move, battle, etc. So let me show you how battle works. So our very first item, again, you read these cards. If you haven't played other States of Siege games, you simply read them top to bottom. This is typically how solitaire games work. The cards direct the actions of the game, etc. So the first thing is we get a battle in the East, battle action +1 DRM. So who do we have in the East? Well, we've got our Confederate National Military Advisor is A.S. Johnston. And, we had yet to pick our Eastern Theater Commander. So when I initially set up this game for the video, I forgot to assign the Eastern Theater Commander. It was from a random draw out of a cup, and so Polk is our military commander. Not very good because it's hard to get initiative because he has a 4 and his DRM for battles is a -1. But we have an opportunity to do a battle over here. We do not have to check against his initiative. We can just go ahead and do a battle against, we're going to choose here in the East to battle against the Army of the Potomac, whose battle value is 3. It's as simple as most other States of Siege games. You're going to take a single die. In this case, we'll take our red die for the Confederates. And we have to roll higher than a 3. But we have a -1 DRM, which means we have to roll a 5 or a 6 to have a successful battle. In the case of a 3, we would not win the battle, however, and we would not even remove that initiative marker. It's 3 minus 1 is 2. 3 beats 2, nothing happens. They're going to get initiative again if we don't do something about it by the time we get to the bottom of the card that we're on. Had we rolled a 4, that would have ended up as a tie. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 ties it. It does not push the army back. However, it does remove the initiative marker. And finally, had we rolled a 5 or a 6, we would have not only removed the marker, but we would have pushed them back, what's referred to as a northern invasion. Now what's interesting is this is like one of those little rules that you have to remember. If you look over here, you'll notice that there's a year marker tracking what year it is. And underneath that year marker for 1861, it says northern invasions prohibited. So at this point, he's just going to stay where he is, but we did get rid of that initiative marker. And that's the way battles work. There's really never much more complicated than that. You might have some DRMs that are adding up from both cards. For example, we forgot on this battle, as I was talking, we had that +1 DRM. So that +1 DRM on this battle would have canceled Polk, and a roll of a 3 would have gotten rid of the Union initiative marker that was on there. So that's how battle works. You know, when you get to the next line in the card where it says command action, you have a choice to do many different things. We can fight another battle. We can attempt to switch out the leaders that we have. Like if I don't want to keep Polk, I could attempt to get a different leader out of the draw cup. We could try diplomacy with Europe. We could try naval actions if we had some naval resources in play, and a few other actions. You know, it's important just to realize that there's about a half-dozen different things you can do whenever you have a command action. And then the next line on the card says morale. Just roll a die, and we're either going to lose 1 or gain 1. It's that simple. So you roll a die. You know, in this case, I rolled a 2, and for a 1 or a 2, we lose 1 morale. So just like that, we're down to 9 morale, and it was just because of a die roll. And finally, it says, do that Union initiative check. The marker is no longer on that army, so he does not activate it. He does not activate. So that would be the end of that first card, and you keep going through the deck. There's going to be a card for every month of the year. The year is short in the first year. 1861, you start out with 9, and then you go 12 cards in 1862, 12 cards in 1863, 12 cards in 1864. And as you're going through each year, you're only dealing yourself enough cards to get through that year. And the ones that are left over will go and be added to the deck for the next year. So the cards are going to come out differently. It's another States of Siege staple, where the events will be shuffled enough that each playthrough will never be exactly the same, because the cards are going to come out in a different order. Other important things to note, other things that we're looking at on the map, are you're going to stick available resources here. And how do you get resources? Well, depending on how the blockade is going, you're going to get opportunities to draw resources from this cup. And you're going to draw things like torpedoes and forts and railroads. And these are all things that are going to help you, that you're either going to deploy on the map, deploy on one of these counter trackers to slow things down for the Union. Over here you have the year being tracked, and what these extra markers here on different years are just markers that are going to be added to the draw cups when these years come up. So it's a way to add resources and leaders to the game that weren't available until historically in that period. Now, as for the tracks themselves, again, there is no central location. The armies are going to move around this map following rules printed on the cards, following rules that are described in the rule book, and eventually they're just going to keep chipping away at your resources, chipping away at your forts that start set up on the map. They'll chip away at those, and they will turn those forts into advanced bases when they destroy those forts. So those advanced bases are not good, because every now and then you're going to have a chance to push armies via a raid action. You can, or actions that happen from the cards, you can push armies all the way back to their starting space. It's not always just pushing them back one space. However, if they have an advanced base, that's bad news. They can never move back farther than their advanced base. So that is an overview of the Lost Cause, you know, in a very succinct nutshell. It is a deep game. It requires some study of the rules. Knowing your history will definitely help. And it really is a game about managing your resources and holding on as long as possible. You are not going to blow out the Union forces. The dice will not let you do it. The cards will not let you do it. The available resources that dwindle and dwindle as the Union blockade gets stronger and stronger will not let you do it. You have to get lucky. There is definitely an element of luck involved. You have to get lucky to score any kind of victory in this game. As far as victory conditions go, I told you how you lose by this morale marker hitting 0. So how do you win? Well, if you make it through all these cards of the game, you're going to get a chance to win the game. If you can make it to the election of 1864 and win the election, okay, you've won. That's awesome, and I've never seen that happen. Typically, the best thing you're going to do is you're going to make it to the end of 1865, and then you're going to consult the rule book. It's got a couple charts for for either victory or defeat. So for defeat, you're going to measure that by counting up how many headline cards have been played, and you're going to see how well you did. And if you make it through the end of the game, all the cards have been played, you're just going to check the morale, where the morale marker is, and you can see the chart I'm looking at right now. That's going to tell you what kind of victory you scored. It's going to take you, I'd say, a good 3 hours your first playthrough, if you can get through it all in one sitting. It does move faster the more you play it. I guarantee you, though, you will be referring to the quick reference sheet explaining all of the possible Confederate command options and effects of the year-end sequence, etc. There's a lot of conditional rules, based on where markers are, what year it is, etc. But it all works well. It all plays more and more seamlessly as you get more experience with the game. This is probably not a game that you're going to add to your collection and maybe pull out every now and then and just get a game in and then put it away. It's going to take you time to reacclimate yourself with this one. Or in my case, it's a game that you need to leave on your table for a few weeks. So you guys know that I haven't done a video in maybe, a week or two now? It's because it really takes a number of plays before you get comfortable with the mechanics of the game, with the flow, and understand what you need to do to win. And really, all I can tell you is you want to hope for high die rolls. You want to try to get good Confederate commanders in the theaters where action is happening. So each playthrough is going to be different. Depending on how the cards come out, you're going to have danger in the Mississippi, the West, or the East. It's going to play out different each time. So you're going to need to move commanders around the field. You're also going to have commanders get injured randomly, which is not fun. And so you've got to manage those resources, manage your commanders so you have the best possible dice roll modifiers playing in your favor. You have to adjust to the Union commanders that are in play. You have to adjust to the strength of the Union armies, which will vary through the game. So, for example, Army of the Potomac starts at a 3-3, so initiative check of 3, strength of 3. Then they're going to become Army of the Virginia. Good. You need to take advantage of that. When they are on the board as the Army of the Virginia, they're easier to beat. However, later in the game, they go away and they get replaced by a second Army of the Potomac marker, which raises their battle value to 4. And so that's bad news for the Confederates when that marker comes out. So that's an overview. It does come with a basic version. I highly recommend play a few games with the basic version, get an understanding of rules, and then what the advanced version does, all of this part, morale, European recognition, Union blockade, remains the same. The map is simpler. There's less locations. There's the one less year in the basic game, and you can probably get through that in a game of that. Once you get really good with the basic game, maybe you can get through that in an hour, probably closer to an hour and 15 minutes. So to wrap this up, like I said in the beginning, if games like Israeli Independence, which is an operational level game, are too simple, or Zulus on the Ramparts, which is tactical level, if that's too simple, and you enjoy the theme of playing the South in the Civil War, if you enjoy knowing that the game is heavily slanted towards kicking your butt, and you enjoy trying to figure out how to maximize your limited resources to hold out as long as possible, then give this game a shot. That is the Lost Cause, States of Siege game number 4. And when we return to the States of Siege games, the next game we will be looking at is one I have yet to open, Levée en Masse, The Wars of the French Revolution 1789 to 1802. So that will be the next game in this series that I look at. I don't know if it'll be the next game I review on this channel. I have a couple other ones in the queue that I might get to first, but trust me, we will get through all the States of Siege games. If you have any questions about this game, leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you click the like button. If you are over on this channel for the first time, would love to have you as a subscriber so you can keep up with what's going on. Also check out our Facebook page where I post everything that's going on in the hands-on games gaming world. And until next time, you guys have a great week. If you're here in the US, try to stay cool, and I will talk to you guys soon.